Ladies and gentlemen, good day. I'm Jeremy Amparo Bersano from BSAD Math 1. Today, I want to talk about something that might make some of you cringe. The worst excuses I have ever given a teacher. Now I know we've all been there. Maybe you forgot to do your homework, or you oversleep and missed an important class. But trust me, my excuses takes the cake. It all started when I was a sophomore in high school. I was taking a physics class, and to be honest, I was not the best student. One day, we have a big exam, and I realized I have not studied at all. What I do. When I came up with the worst excuses ever. I told my teacher that my dog have eaten my notes. Yes, you heard that right. I blame my poor innocent dog for my lack of preparation. Of course, my teacher was not buying it. She looked at me skeptically, and I know I was in trouble. But I could not back down now. I have to stick to my story, so I started elaborating on the excuses, telling her how my dog had a habit of chewing on paper and how he destroyed everything. It was a ridiculous story, and I know it, but it just not could not admit that I have not studied. Needless to say, my teacher was not impressed. She gave me a stern lecture about responsibility and accountability, and I left the classroom feeling like a complete fool. But the worst part, my dog actually did not eat my notes. A few weeks later, and this time, I could not use the excuse because my teacher did not believe me the first time. Looking back on this experience, I realized how silly and immature my excuses was. It's easy to make excuses when we don't want to face the consequence of our actions. But in the end, we're only hurting ourselves. If I have just admit that I have not studied and asked for help, I might have been able to do better on the exam. Instead, I wasted time and energy coming up with a ridiculous story, and that the only made me look foolish. So the next time you tempted to make an excuses, remember my story and think twice. It's much better to take responsibility for your action and face the consequence head on. Trust me, it's a lot it's a less embarrassing than blaming your dog for eating your homework. Second, as a student, we've all been there. We've all had the one moment where we did not do our homework or complete an assignment, and we'd have to come up with an excuses to give our teacher. And let's be honest, some of those excuses were just downright terrible. I left my textbook at home. These excuses may not sound too bad, but it's the way I delivered it that made it terrible. I didn't even try to sound convincing. I just blurted it out as soon as my teacher asked for my homework. Needless to say, it did not work. And lying about losing my homework, falling asleep in class due to poor night's sleep, or blaming technical difficulties for my inability to submit an assignment. Often, students would resort to telling stories to cover up their failure. But teachers are experienced and wise enough to know when someone is telling the truth versus trying to make up for a mistake. Trust the honest are the foundations of any relationships, and students should refrain from giving irrational excuses to their educators. Instead, they should take responsibility for their actions and work towards improving their performance in the future. In conclusion, these are are just few of the terrible excuses I have given to our teachers. But let's be real, we've all been there. The key is to learn from our mistakes and take responsibility for our actions. Thank you for listening.